Good evening, everyone. This is Select Board Water Commissioner meeting for Monday, May 13th of 2024. Read the agenda for tonight. Under old business, we have Sheriff Grismore to discuss proposal on police services. We need to appoint an animal control officer. We need to appoint a project manager for the Connecting Sheldon Scoping Grant. Review remaining bids for grounds maintenance. Review cost estimate received for Middle Street Sewer Project. We need to discuss town property at the school grounds. And we need to enter into executive discussion to discuss the open highway positions. Then under new business, we need to approve the minutes from the April 22nd, May 6th, and May 9th meetings. Need to approve purchase of road chloride. Need to sign some payroll warrants, sign some fleet permits, and we need to do the annual readoption of local emergency management plan. And then we have the town administrator report, budget status report. Is there anything else we need to add to this? Brian, do you need to be on the agenda, or are you just here to listen?
Well, I'm looking for some streetlights.
Okay. I'll put you down then. Anything else?
We did receive a paving proposal,
Okay.
so we might want to
Review the baby
review those. That's for the road paving, not the.
All right. We'll start right out with you, John, if you'd like to.
Absolutely. You want me here? You want me up there?
Wherever you like.
Yeah, I'm good here.
You're good?
Yep.
So, what do we have?
Did he get Nick's questions, or was it just Nick's questions that you sent to us?
I sent it to you guys.
This is us. Okay.
Go through some of that.
Yeah. So some of Nick's questions, I guess can you provide a breakdown of the bill rates for this year in the contract proposal so we can have a better understanding of how this rate is set and the funds are depicted on the one-year contract based on $73 an hour bill rate, breakdown between the salary, officer salary, benefits, and other costs. It's a mouthful.
Yeah, so let me just make sure I understand that. So you're looking for a more itemized breakdown of
Yep.
cost? I don't know that I can get that to you. We don't provide that to anybody else, but let me see if I can get you some specifics. It's really a combination of a lot of financial analyses that we do. Some of it is based on projected growth that has historical significance, right? So what do we anticipate to pay folks over the next length of the contract? A big piece of that too is remaining competitive, right? We have and I've talked about this ad nauseum before, but we have a very, very limited applicant pool and are really struggling with staffing like everybody is. It's not just a sheriff's office issue, it's everybody. So we've had to elevate our compensation packages quite significantly over the last 5 years to make sure that it is a attractive and competitive wage based on what everybody else is doing, right? With fewer applicant pools, everybody throws money at it, and we have to remain competitive, or we just won't have folks to do any of the work. So that's part of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but insurance costs, I mean, like, you're all familiar with the cost of doing business in your other lives, right? Insurance costs are going through the roof. We have, just so you understand, there's one entity that provides law enforcement insurance. That's it. We can't even be competitive with it. We got to just take what they give us, So that's a challenge, and those rates went up significantly. Cruiser costs, those kinds of things. Liability, workman's comp, and healthcare costs have jumped as well. And so those are all the main contributors. But let me see if I can get you something a little more granular.
With the hours you have proposed, what are the proposed hours that you have for patrol with these contracts or with this contract? Like,
What hours would we perform?
yes.
So, that's up for conversation. So, we try to mix it up, some evenings and days and things like that, because different issues happen different times of the day. So we would like to break it up. And what we have done traditionally, and this goes back, for decades and decades, is that we would run in the summer, like maybe till 2 a.m. We find that statistically the numbers of incidents decline dramatically after 2. And we have also referred to that kind of as the state police model. That's, what they're consistently performing. So that's kind of what we do. So we would run, the 2 shifts that we run right now are an 8 to 4:30 and a 4:30 to 1. And so what that does is that builds in an extra half hour that you all don't pay for, but we build into that, we pay for that, because the concern is that it's not necessarily fair to you all to have somebody who lives in St. Albans be driving, to start their shift. So we kind of give and take a little bit on that 15 minutes to say that, they're on duty. It's a perk for them, obviously, to be able to have a cruiser at home and things like that. So that's kind of how that works out. I've been asked that in the past, that's why I bring that up. So the purpose of that is just that, we would, appreciate feedback from you all about times of day that you would like us to focus and things like that. But that's traditionally what we do, those kind of daytime things. In the winter months, we will bring that back to like a 1, we'll shift it, we'll end at like 1 or 1:30, something like that.
Are you willing to shorten these contracts, or are you?
In terms of years?
Yes.
So I have been asked that before, and I'm very reluctant. I mean, I'm certainly open to having a conversation about it. The problem that I have is that, when you're in this contractual job landscape, it's very difficult for folks to, look at like a 1-year contract bid. It's a challenge for us, and I've gotten some feedback from my folks that is not favorable about doing anything less than 3 years. That's why we went to 3 years. You know what I mean? So it's a challenge for us. I mean, certainly we could look at that, but we have done 2 years. Like Fairfax did a 2-year contract. That was important to them. They also do 7 days a week, so that was a concession that we made. But less than 2 years, it's a challenge. It's a real challenge for us.
Yeah, I know my personal concern is like signing up for this and then not even getting the coverage that we sign up for.
Right.
Or having, and I'm not saying you, but in the past we've had it where we've been told incidents are taken care of, and then to come find out they're not even patrolling us and haven't been for 7 months. Mm-hmm. So that's my, like, I know staffing is an issue for everyone, so we sign up for this, and then all of a sudden we can't even get what we're paying for. So
correct, and that's the way it was. You're absolutely right. Yep. But not to not to be goofy about it. There's a new sheriff in town.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and I understand that too. It's just that's my my personal concern is like
absolutely
we asked for all this and we weren't getting anything delivered to us.
Correct. Correct. I'm aware of that. Yeah. So and you'll also know through that when I took over, everything was put in the St. Albans town basket. All the resources were given there, and all the other towns were neglected grossly, including Sheldon. Mm-hmm. I came back and said, it's not fair. We're going to reestablish our relationships with Sheldon, and we couldn't give you everything, but we're giving you now pretty consistently 16 hours, and are being very effective in that, by the way. But so that's kind of what was important to me, and it continues to be important to me, is to start to spread that wealth more uniformly across the various different towns that we've had these legacy relationships with. So that's why in the contract we have changed the verbiage and say target, because there's so much unpredictability in staffing that we can't guarantee police services. We just can't. I wish we could. It's just not like it used to be. So, but the good news is that with St. Albans town going away, all of those resources are now available. So the probability of satisfying a 40-hour contract is incredibly high. I feel very good about that, given the staffing that we have now and the folks that we just brand new guy started today on the road by himself. We've got another guy that's another full-time person that's going to be starting at the end of the month. So things are certainly very favorable for that.
Now, what if we, instead of doing a 40 hour, say we wanted a 20 hour, over 2 year, is that?
Sure.
That's,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Divide these numbers in 2/3 or,
Sounds like half.
Okay, I thought I'd ask, so.
My pencil's not that sharp, unfortunately. Yeah. But we can, and we can do anything that we want, right? I mean, that's the great thing about this partnership. If you find that there's hours, we'd have to have a minimum, right?
Yeah.
Do the staffing, but anything above that minimum threshold, we can be flexible too. So if you wanted to do 20 hours a week and you're like, boy, we'd really like to go to 40 hours a week, it was, things are getting out of control, we want to have some additional coverage, we can always look at that.
Yeah.
So for accountability purposes for hours, like how many hours you spend a week, or when you can't provide that, what do we get in terms of that? I mean, do we have anything to account for your officer or officers being within the realm of the town of Sheldon?
Sure, we have GPS units in all of our cruisers. Yep, so we can track any of that. Yep, so I know exactly where they are and when they're there, how long they're sitting someplace, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, and what about for the town's purposes, to know when we're getting our fair share of time?
So we certainly can look at reporting out on some of that for you. We're a little guarded about specifics, right? Because we don't want folks to know like, they're sitting on Bridge Street, right? So things like we don't want the general public to have that information, but certainly we can, and if there's concerns, right? I mean, if there's some concerns, and sometimes there are, people are like, I haven't seen the sheriffs in a while. Well, it might be because we're here or there, or, you know what I mean? So, but we're certainly willing to make you all feel good about the services that you're paying for. The other thing that we changed too, that I changed, was that we no longer bill in advance for services rendered. We'll pay you, you'll pay us for the services that we provide for you after the fact. So we account for all that, we know who's working, how many hours they're working, and those kinds of things. So that's a much more, in my opinion, and I'm sure in yours as well, it's a much more transparent way of conducting business, so that we're not having to deal with, we billed you for 40 hours, but we really only gave you 38, and then we owe you money, we carry it over, right? So, yeah, and that's something that we changed. And we do that with all the towns, by the way. Every town that we have contracts with right now, we only bill for services rendered.
So are these contracts pretty much for all the other towns the same?
All the same.
Pricing?
All the same.
So
Yep. And I will share with you, one of the things that that's not written in the contract, but we certainly are willing to make this, is that historically we've had these pass-through costs of cruisers, right? A cruiser is a cruiser, whether it's sitting on the road or and sitting up here on Main Street, it's still a cost that we have to incur. So, and we also have dispatching costs, right? So we have to pay for somebody to do our dispatching services. Historically, those have been pass-through costs. But what I'm willing to do with Sheldon, which I've offered other towns as well, is we will incorporate that into a straight dollar amount. So that rather than having to be on the hook for whatever your portion of a cruiser expense is, we will just bill the straight hourly rate for all of that. So that's a question that came up with some of the discussions I've had with some other towns, and it's a small detail, but it's an important detail.
So it's built into that hourly rate, so it's not broken.
The cruisers are not built into
they're
that
not.
hourly rate.
Okay.
Nope.
So dispatch, who does your dispatching?
St. Albans PD.
The PD.
Yep.
So like Sheldon Fire, Care Ambulance, they pay a portion of their or they pay dispatching fees to St. Albans as well.
I'm assuming they do. I'm not sure what their arrangements
So,
are.
I mean, if someone has a 911 call from Sheldon, it's gonna get to you somehow, right? Through
Right,
fees?
absolutely. Yep. It goes through the whole 911 process, yeah. Yep. And it actually is great, and I'm assuming I don't know all the intricacies of what AmCare numbers when somebody calls there, but having a unit like St. Albans Dispatch Center is that all of those communication resources are all in one room, right? So it's an efficient model for them because they can dispatch us and AmCare and fire and have much more control over the incident in and of itself than having fragmented call centers that handle different parts of a emergency or an accident or whatever.
So they know when you're patrolling up
Yes.
here too.
Yep, and we try to, and this is something we do with you, and we have done with you, is send you a schedule of what we're anticipating the days that we're working. So if we're 40 hours a week, we provide that to you. So obviously there's some changes and last minute things, but and we also try to provide that to them as well. But at a minimum, they know when we sign on. So we sign on that we're starting our tour in Sheldon.
Yeah.
Yep. And then VSP gets the message too, and so they, okay, well, we don't need to respond to calls tonight because sheriffs are there. Yep.
Who else do you have contracts signed with there now?
Highgate and Fairfax. So I met with Enosburg last Monday, and Richford as well. I haven't met with them yet, but they're considering the new contract.
Question.
Yep.
How does it work, like in odd time?
What do you mean all the time? Like when we're not here?
Well, at 5 o'clock in the morning, somebody calls. How do we get protection?
So the state police still provide coverage when we're not here.
So in theory, you got 24/7.
In theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not, they're down to be here to do traffic stops and stuff.
Yeah, the challenge
State
they have
police doesn't have time to do traffic stops, because they're short-staffed, or just sitting down when we have trouble with ATVs.
Yeah, and again, they're floating around too, and sometimes they've got to do with grand dial, so if they've got 5 people on, and they might not necessarily hear the benefit of, obviously, as we all know, contracting with us, is that these are dedicated resources. These are services that you own and can have a level of control over.
But the Crow Hill episode, how does that play into this game?
How does what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
The Crow Hill
Oh,
episode.
Pro Hill.
Well, I think all that's going to court, in the court system as far as I know.
That was nothing, nothing to do with any of our patrol stuff. I mean, those were calls into, neighbors complaining or whatever. Well, do we have any more questions?
No, I don't. No.
You were?
No, I don't think so.
I guess we'll wait till our other board members here to make a decision on this, but.
And if you have questions, let me know, right? I mean, we really want to resume a partnership with this town.
Yep.
It's important to all of us, so if there's any questions that you have, I certainly appreciate that the sticker price, there's some shock there. Honestly, it was when we're looking at the cost of doing business in the office and, and how the costs have just gone out of control. It's, and we've got to be competitive with other agencies that are offering tens of thousands of dollars in bonuses, just sign-on bonuses, so. It's just unfortunately how it is these days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Take care.
Hey, Charles.
All right. Brian, any questions about streetlights?
Is it possible to get 2 streetlights on Sheldon Heights, one at the junction of 105 and Sheldon Heights, and one there right by the fire hydrant? There's poles there.
Guess we could look into it.
Is there a reason why you'd like them?
The nighttime driving there is not getting to be the best. When somebody comes, it's like, you should have a light there at the corner. But it's just a straight shot there. If there's a light there, they might see the sign.
I don't think they're stopping for the stop sign.
Well, they don't, it ain't stopping for the stop sign, it's stopping to make the curve. You get to Addis before you gone by that corner.
Oh,
Cause it's kind of like a dark hole.
And you mentioned one further down by the fire plug?
Right. Well, there's a pole right there, and it'd be a safety thing for the fire department to say.
Okay, could be.
I'll put it this way, the light's on when you get there.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to look into it.
Yeah.
See what the cost is and see where it's easily done.
And do we have the audit back?
Not to my knowledge, not heard the clerk say anything about that. But I could certainly ask her about it, but
Yeah.
it seems like I would have heard about that if we did, but I can ask her about that.
I thought that was to be back at town meeting day.
And they told us they weren't gonna have it. I think that was the discussion we had at town meeting, is Kim knew she wasn't gonna have it back at that point. But I could be completely wrong. I'm not sure exactly what the exact dialogue was that day.
That was March, this is May. We still don't have the audit back?
Yep.
Not to our knowledge, I guess I can ask her about that, yeah.
Can I get a copy of that when it comes?
Well,
We will
absolutely.
make sure you're the first one to have it.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. Bring it on here. Nick's supposed to be coming.
I think so, yeah, he didn't give me a time frame exactly, but he thought he wouldn't be here when the sheriff was.
So we have a interested party for the animal control officer, is that? We're gonna,
Yeah. Cody Bombardier.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to nominate Cody Bombardier as animal control officer for the town of Sheldon.
All right, a second on that.
Yep, we'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So you'll contact him,
Yes, I will, yeah.
get
He's, last time I talked to him, he said he'd be ready to start as soon as possible.
Okay. Now, this, connecting Sheldon scoping grant, that's walking, sidewalk.
Yes,
stuff at the Sheldon's-
Bicycle pedestrian, the idea was to create some sort of bicycle pedestrian route from the rail trail toward the school, I think was the idea of that grant. And my understanding from, when I went to the planning commission meeting last month, they were strongly encouraging that we, I believe we're at the stage of the grant where a project manager needs to be appointed, and they were strongly encouraging you to appoint Northwest Regional to act as a project manager. That would probably be Kyle Grenier, the transport.
I thought we had appointed them already for that.
Well, I think we're committed to,
Was that for
Right
real?
there.
That might have,
Okay.
yeah.
now that we've got the grant, we need to.
Yeah, I talked to Kyle last week and he kind of went through the whole process with me in terms of where we're, we filed a grant, we got a grant contract, we've signed that. There was a committee formed, the committee decided on what they have to decide on a at the ready process, kind of a list of pre-qualified firms to do that sort of thing. And then that's sort of where we're at right now. And then I think with the grant, the idea with the project manager managers, they'll develop the request for proposals to actually do the scoping study, and then that will go out for bid. And you'll negotiate with firms, they'll work with us to negotiate with firms, and then there's a standard process after that for the grant being completed, up until when there's, they'll show all the alternative, options for where that could go forward, and then one of those will be chosen, and that'll all be published up as a, future plan of what to do.
Okay.
So that's my understanding of where it's at. I just need to approve that project manager in order to keep moving down the line.
So I get a motion to appoint, Northwest Regional Planning as project manager for the Connecting Sheldon and Scoping grant.
I'll make the motion.
All right, second on that.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You're saying it goes from the rail trail to the school?
I believe that's what, it's to discuss options for how to create a safe walking path. It's several places in Sheldon Springs, I don't think it's limited to that, but that's the main aim of the project, I believe, is to create either a sidewalk or a bike path from where the rail trail crosses Mill Street up towards School Street and toward the school, so you could access.
Up Mill Street into the school.
Correct, yeah, up Mill Street toward the school, yeah, and it would have to cross 105, obviously, and then I think there may be some other options in there that were discussed about, other things besides that, but I believe that's the main focus of the grant.
I'm gonna wait and do the remaining bids after we talk in executive session about highway personnel, highway positions, just to know what we're gonna have possibly. Is that fair?
Yep. Okay. So, discuss the Mill Street sewer project, where's the work?
Yeah, it should be in, toward the back, yeah, I believe I think it's underneath your folder. Yeah, I don't know if I put it in the box for you, Steve, or it might be underneath the red folder. I think yours has a sticky note on it. Yeah, sorry.
What's this in here?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so we've finally got that back from Otter Creek last Monday, I think. And they had been waiting, you'll see in the back that there's a project down in Pittsford that has gone out to bid, and they were waiting to receive those bids in order to create a cost estimate for our project, because it's a similar project apparently. So using those bids that are at the back, they came up with a cost estimate that's in the front there.
Well, that's the comparable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Comparable because it's the same lengths, sanitary sewer, same amount of clean outs. Is that why they're saying it's comparable? Or did they tell you?
I did not discuss it in that detail with Hubert, but I believe that's why. Well, I actually called the engineer myself, but he didn't call me back, but then the next time I heard from Hubert, he had received the estimate, so I guess my phone call was effective, maybe not.
So
So when they say Church Street, that's only going up, like how, what would it say?
Yeah, that's another aspect of it that I wish I'd discussed with Hubert a little bit more about that. My understanding is that we should be talking about just the Mill Street part, the number that's at the very end, on the
Yeah.
very far to the right. I
Yeah.
believe that's the basic project that we're looking at.
And that's going from the whole way, how far is it, I know it's
My understanding would be between the post office and the rail trail,
only 850 feet.
because that is a section of the sewer system that is the original mill system with the clay pipe.
When you couldn't get the camera out there.
I believe that's right. Yeah.
And where are we at with Camry?
He said we're supposed to call someone soon about that. I just talked to him today about that, and I think he was, if I remember, someone who can do that will be in the area soon, and so he's waiting to hear back from them about when they'll be available. So it sounds like it would happen in the next week or two, I think, but. So my understanding about this estimate is it's really, we're using this to create a request for bids, is the idea. And Hubert and I discussed possibly contacting Tyler Billingsley at East Engineering, who did the Hill Road culvert for us. Maybe having him look at this and see if he thinks it's feasible, or if he thinks it might be if he thinks this estimate is reasonable, or if we should talk to someone else. I haven't done that yet, but that was sort of the next step we're talking about.
I personally don't want to do anything until we have the camera done, and so we know, I mean, that's just I know we have that one section, but we still don't know what it looks like down the look of it. It's been 7 or 8, 9 years, so, and there was some, but that's my personal opinion, is there was some talk of, there was some pipe, possible crackage and breakage, not breakage, but decay lower, so I don't wanna, if it's, still can't get all the way, I open up the road once if we can.
Right.
I understand that one section's always having the trouble, but if we fix that and then we get really good flow and then it gets farther down, we can't get it to where we need to, we're still on the same path, where if we can do more and maybe get more bang for our buck, then we'll try that, but I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't want to speak for you.
Makes perfect sense, but where are we, the whole Mill Street, and where we're talking camera? Talk about
We're talking the whole thing at least from Jolly down.
Okay. No, it makes perfect sense. No sense wasting, it's gonna cost them, but no sense wasting money in the long run if we don't do it.
Yeah. Because I don't think there's a need to go over and camera School Street. No, I think it's only Mill Street, and then we could go up Boarding House, but we kind of know where the suspects are there, but we could still look at it, but again, it's more of that one section, the last.
Yeah, there's
2,000 feet.
There's a bad spot right behind where the trailers are.
Yeah.
It's every year it has an issue.
Yeah.
And it's plugged.
Yeah.
It's plugged from tree roots or whatever.
Yeah.
The case maybe.
It's that.
Yeah.
It's that one section, and I just like to make sure that the rest of it's good, and then we know there's something there. If we can do there and there, at least have an idea what we're looking at.
Well, I could certainly talk to Hubert and get a more clear answer to you as to when that will be done, and I can ask him those questions about the estimate itself.
And this is nothing that we're gonna do this year anyways, we'd like to put on for next year's plan.
You said Church Street, is that Shawville Road?
Yeah, I think that's what it refers to, yeah.
The Church Street's up here.
Right. I think they mean near the Catholic Church, I think that's
Yeah,
the.
like only to the church, and that's why.
Wait to get some camera information before we do anything on that. We got this, quote for chloride we need to approve. Price quote is from Innovative Surface Solutions. It's 5,000 gallons delivered to Sheldon. Total cost per unit delivered $1.11 a gallon. Delivered pricing includes standard freight charges with the drastic change in fuel cost. A separate fuel adjustment fee may be applied to all delivered loads and calculated at the time of order. That, you said was the same price as last year?
Correct.
Yeah.
Alright,
And we had heard from some other town that they had paid more than that from another.
Yeah, that's a good price.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they had paid about $1.18 or
Yeah,
something.
$1.18.
Right, so.
and this is the same company?
Yeah.
Anyways, so
Yeah.
we've got their tanks in.
Yeah, we had to renew the 3-year contract on the tanks earlier this month.
Yeah. Alright, so I need a motion to accept this contract.
Make a motion to accept the contract.
Second on that.
Second.
Guys all in favor of that?
Yep. Aye.
You want me to sign that?
Yes, if you could, yeah.
That's, I'll look at that before you sign it. That's emergency law.
Yeah, there, I do see that there are a couple of edits that might need to be made, and I didn't have time to do those, but they're just mostly personnel that have changed.
We've got this town property at school.
So if you're, I just printed out the whole email thread that I had with the school board.
Yeah.
I guess I can explain that better than, So, you guys had asked about, the last time we talked about this, you'd asked about, one, what the costs of different actions would be. I talked to Jim Barlow. He said it's sort of it's very similar price whether you were to hire a lawyer to do a title search and have that map down there. Versus if you executed a quit claim deed, it's probably around the same amount of work in terms of hours billed to a lawyer. But he said the issue with that is that the title search is just the beginning of the process, it doesn't settle anything. So then if you did a title search, you then have to have an agreement afterward about what you'd have to discuss who was going to, right, yeah, exactly. And he said, whereas the quit claim deed is kind of the end of this, if you do that, it's the end of the story.
But can you do a quick claim deed like that if you don't even know if your name's on the property?
Right. Yeah, you can, I think, yeah. I think that's part of my understanding, again, not a lawyer, is that part of the reason why that exists is to get, if you want to buy a property and you're worried that there's different people around who might have a claim, you can go around and get them to sell you that on a quit claim deed for a little bit of money, and then you clear up title problems that way. I think that's one of the reasons why it exists. But the second question I think Nick had was about ensuring public access, and Jim was less concerned about that because it is a public facility, if it's a public school, and presumably it will have the same access to the public that it's always had before, since it's still a public building. And he said that you could, if you decided to quit claim it, you could put an easement in that deed about saying that the school will be open or something, but he thought that a school might be reluctant to define that in law, kind of. They would, just because a school's obviously ultimate concern is about safety for the people there, and they wouldn't want to be tied down by that. He said that, I asked him if, maybe just having some sort of memorandum of understanding that's not really legally binding, but just kind of a framework would be better, and he thought that would be fine.
Yeah.
So I think I did some more digging in terms of trying to figure out why we got to the situation where we're in, and I think part of it has to do with the history of the grand list. The grand list used to list the two parcels separately, one belonging to especially after the ball fields were built, it would always list the ball fields as being town property and the school building or being school property. And then sometime about 10 years ago, it all kind of got put into one property under this school, and that's how it's listed now, and that's how it appears on property maps and stuff like that. On the state's parcel mapping system. So I think, but I don't believe. Again, we still haven't found anything that there was ever any subdivision or anything like that. So I think basically the ground under the school belongs to the town. The building itself obviously belongs to the school district. So I don't think there's a line around the ball fields or anything like that.
Line in the sand.
They divide the two. Now the other side of the road where the forest is, that belongs to the school because the mill because that happened in '96. The mill gave that to the school district specifically.
Yeah.
So I sort of have done a title search. We've sort of done a title search already, and I think that's what they're going to find if they did that. So then you have an issue of, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to have a division where you separate the ball fields from the school property, and then the town owns one and the school owns the other? Do you want to just keep it the way, you could just do nothing, that's a thing you could do. Or you could quit claim the whole property to the school district. And now, the reasons, then we got into the advantages and disadvantages. I talked about this with Jim. And he said that the disadvantage of the situation now current is obviously that there's uncertainty about who pays for what, and also, in a way, since both entities own the same property, if something were to happen to someone down there, there's two liability policies that could be affected by that.
Yeah.
It's just another way to think about it. And I asked the school, the supervisory union, I said, well, what happens in other towns? Because that was another question we had about. And they said in other towns, it's much more clear who owns what. But there are towns where the town owns recreational fields and the school makes a donation to them to help with the maintenance on those. And then there's other schools where, the town plows the driveway for free or things like that. But there doesn't seem to be a situation where it's like Sheldon, where it's not clear who owns what. So I think, as I said, we could, so if we wanted to somehow get into a negotiation with them about subdividing it so the fields belong to the town, and it's something you could do, but then you'd have to then we could get into one of those agreements about that. But Jim thought that the better thing to do would be to just give it over to the school, because no matter what, the school's gonna have concerns about maintaining safety of the property down there, and it'll be easier for them if they just control the property.
Yeah,
And then, it's understood that the public has access to it when the school's not using it. And then this town would be out of any obligation or liability down there. And the only discussion that the town would be involved with would be if they wanted to change the route of the road. Because the road would obviously still belong to the town. So, but if the last time Vern was here talking with you guys about that property, they were talking about creating a bus lane, and not changing the route of the road at all. And if you did that, then if you gave the property to the district, then they could deal with that by themselves, and the town wouldn't be involved unless somehow the road was involved.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where I got to with that. So I think Jim's pretty strong. He seemed more in favor of just quit claiming it, because that would solve the problem, and would be the most clear way to solve the problem, I guess, to put it that way. If you can go about it other ways, but then you have to have further negotiations about it. But, I believe those were all the questions that you guys had about cost and public access and what other towns do. So that's where we got to. And I pretty much said to the supervisory union that I thought this is the direction we might be headed. I kind of said, well, let's hold off on the title search whole thing, because I think we might be moving in a different direction, but obviously that's up to you guys.
So one other thing, while we're having these discussions with them and the school and all those things, that is our emergency shelter.
Right, okay, yeah.
So how does that work if we don't own it? And how do we get in, how do we get access? And then there's an emergency backup generator.
Right.
Who does that fall under?
Well, my understanding is that we don't own the building. The town does not own the building.
So so the emergency backup generator is their responsibility.
I believe that's correct.
and I think you've taken over responsibility, but we used to maintain it.
All right.
Because we still have a line now, we don't put anything on it, but we still have a line, right? So I just wanna make sure that's
There. I
Okay.
think the last 4 or 5 years, I think they've maintained it.
Yes.
Because they got kind of forgotten about it for a while, I guess, and then one time it was supposed to start and it didn't or something. And I think they took over the maintenance on
But I'd just like to know a clarification on how, if in the event we do need to use that,
Yeah.
we know who to call, how to access that.
Okay.
I guess is my,
It's here in the plan.
it. Is it private land?
It is, however.
but is it,
What's it listed under for, so emergency shelters,
Yeah.
contact,
Yeah, the contact information.
that doesn't mean, does that
That
actually?
needs to be modified, I think. So,
okay.
Facility contacts is the principal, Lisa DeLorme, Julia Benet,
Yeah, they're not there anymore, there's
Okay.
a principal, yeah, that's one of the
okay,
ones.
custodian, the admin, phone number. I'm the shelter manager. So,
Just wanted to make sure that was.
That, all that property originally was the pulp mills, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Because they gave it, well, the portion to the school, to my knowledge. Right, the school only had what it sits on, and the rest was town property. I don't know how,
That's
like
the story I had gotten all along, and so that's what I thought was true, but then you start digging in deeds and stuff, and it doesn't show where there's a line or a survey or a subdivision of school and town. It's all, you know,
Just land.
it's just, yeah.
I mean, no, the limit is that there's no like,
But in the past, it was always my understanding that the town owned the fields, and that we used to pay to have them mowed, we fixed the fence, we cut the trees, and all that stuff, but then, yeah, I don't know. But there's nowhere that shows how much land the school sits on, or how much they own, or if they even own it. So,
originally it
that's what we're
was,
trying to figure out.
well, to my thought or whatever, they must have come from the pulp mill to the school, so there must be some, there's no
Well, it was-
paperwork here.
It was from the pulp mill to the town. That's what.
The whole parcel went from the whole
Yeah.
up to the town.
Yeah.
The town owns it.
Right, but then the school district built the school on top of it, and they, with their money, so the building belongs to the school
That's
district,
right,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and there's no place where the town said, okay, put your school here, we're gonna keep the ball fields, we get, you know, everybody says, oh, it's just around that driveway and around there, but there's no legal description of any transfer or anything there. And it was always all my understanding, that there was a quarter-acre lot down next to the road that was supposed to be kept out for the library, but there's no,
Right there where the pine trees are.
well, yeah, you heard the same story I did, I guess, but there's no legal description or anywhere on paper that says that ever happened. So that's what we're trying to figure out, and the school would like to change access to make it safer to unload kids and unload buses. And we had talked about possibly moving Poor Farm Road to get out of their parking lot area. But now they've come up with a different plan to go below the tennis court possibly and up along that other drive that goes around the school. So they were trying to figure out who owned the land. And, you know, that's where we started doing all this digging, and we're not finding what I was always told it was, but, so.
So the parking lot is different plan than it was.
They're still floating around different ideas, yeah.
6, 8 years ago, whatever that was.
That's been, yeah, they've had 3, 4 different plans since then. We had discussions just
2 years ago, year and a half ago.
a year and a half ago, yeah, it was in.
Year ago.
Year ago, it was in the spring. Yeah, we went down and they hired somebody to look at it and draw up some designs, and now they've kind of thrown those all away and come up with a whole different one, so. So we're trying to get that cleared up, and it looks like as far as everything goes, we might be better off just to give it all to the school. That way they can do what they need to do with it.
Does that need to go to the voters?
I don't know. I guess that's another question to ask the attorney before we make our decision. How to proceed with all this.
Is there any chance that having someone go through, look at, I mean, I know you look at the books and stuff like that, and some legally looking at that to see if the land there was a transfer somewhere, or?
Well, that's the thing, we can do a title search.
Right.
You know, you can hire somebody to dig and see what they come up with.
You certainly have that option, it's just, when I discussed it with Jim, he said, well, you can do that, but it won't solve I guess he's thinking this will solve the problem, so, but obviously you can do that if you want to. Yeah, we had asked I reached out to them in case there was some deed that they had in this, in the school or in the supervisory union record that was somehow we didn't have here, and of course, that school used to be part of one supervisory union until very recently, and now it's part of another, and anyway, they didn't seem to have any records that had happened.
How was you came across the easement for the well, right?
Correct, yeah.
So what,
That's in that file folder.
so whose property does that supposedly sit on?
Well, so what happened, so my understanding is that the the school district quit claimed that to the town, so it seems like this, who owns the school lot, has been a tension right from the beginning. So 1972 is when the mill gives the lot to the town, and it's for proposed school lot. So it immediately went on the exempt list because everyone thought we're gonna build, it's town property, we're gonna put a school on. Okay, and then at the same time, because it was sort of part of a grand bargain with the mill that the town was gonna take over the sewer system down in the Springs and fix it. And as part of that, the mill gave the school land. And then, so of course, the water that supplied that water, sort of the sewer system and the water system down there in the Springs. And of course, the water supply for that system at the time was that well that is on the school lot. So the mill gave the land to the town, and then as the town was and then it ceded a whole bunch of water, the mill ceded a whole bunch of water rights to the town, easements for all those houses. And as part of that whole process, the school ceded the rights to that well and piping system to the town. So it sounds like from the beginning, because the school district was building the school on the town land, the understanding was that the school and town owned the land together, or at least the town thought they needed the school to give away those rights to the water supply, so that the town controlled that completely. So the only thing I know that down there is that the town owns free and clear the well and the piping system down there that we don't use anymore. As to the rest of the property, it belongs to the town, and the school apparently has a claim on it.
Well, why would the school quit claiming the
pipe?
The well if it was already on town land?
Right, well, that's a good question, yeah.
And the easement going across it.
Right. And maybe they did that because they were building the school there, and so they thought the school district would have a claim to that property. I have no idea, Steve, that is a very good question.
The original well,
Right, that's what we're talking about.
no, the original well was down behind where the old school was.
Yeah,
Right, yes.
Well,
Yes,
sure,
there was 2 wells there, yeah.
but this quit claim was done in 1974 when they built the school.
Right.
Or when they were working on building the school.
Yeah. Yeah, so
But it was 72 that Standard Packing Corporation released it to the town of Sheldon.
They must say the acreage here.
The acreage is the actual, we have the acreage in a couple different spots, but it's almost like the land is the town's in some regards, and just where the school sits is the school's.
I'm not sure if it says.
But never ever take out the school, the school building out of the acreage, it's just saying that acreage is.
I don't believe that the deed actually has acreage on it. It gives a description of the property, but it comes to 11.4 acres, I think, something like that.
Is that what comes to the tax map?
Yeah, well, on the tax map, it's combined, both parcels on both sides of the road are combined, which is wrong, as far as I know. Because the town at least should have an interest on one side of the road. But it's been combined with the town forest on the other side on the parcel map, so. On the parcel map, it says that there's 93 acres or something like that, but it's supposed to be 2 parcels, one on each side of
But did
the road. Yeah.
the mill give up the 11 acres and the extra 80 acres or whatever it is? There must be 2 deeds or?
Yeah,
two
so there's
transfers?
a second deed to the school district in 1996 for the other side of the road where the forest and the soccer field is down there, where the garden center, sugar house is. And that's just to the school district, not to the town.
Well, you should be able to look at the 2 acreages, figure out which one is A and which one is B.
You said the right numbers on that, 80?
Yeah, it's 80, I can't remember, it's 80 something, yeah. Again, I think what happened, Brian, is somehow on the grand list, these parcels were combined when they should not have been. Because for years and years and years, they were always listed separately. There was always town recreational field and Sheldon School. And they were always listed separately, and then at a certain point about 10 years ago, it just says Sheldon School and 93 acres or whatever, and it's all the land together. Now it's on the exempt list, so it doesn't have any, the value is, not, the listers don't care about the value of exempt properties, but technically speaking, if the ownership isn't the same, they should be listed separately, but they weren't for some reason.
That wouldn't have anything to do with the other town land on the other side of Sioux Hollow. Confusion wise, acreage wise, it's about the same, isn't it?
It's close, but I don't know. It looks like when I was looking at the grand list, it looks like about 10 years ago, there was a kind of consolidation of the exempt list because it goes down from having 38 parcels to like 25. And I'm not sure why that happened, or they might have listed properties just according to when, could have been just a long-standing tradition that as the town acquired a property, it was just listed separately, and then they decided to consolidate them. But anyway, I'm not sure why that happened. But I will ask Jim about whether that would require asking the voters about that sort of parcel, or whether that's a good idea. Yeah, as far as the emergency shelter generator, I think that that's covered in the plan, and if you're concerned about that, that could be, again, there's no reason why there can't be some sort of memorandum of understanding with the school district about that.
Yeah, I guess we get the updated contact information on that, in case something does happen. All right. Get this stuff done.
Yep.
Yeah.
On the 2 paving stuff, did either of them say when they could commit time-wise?
Well, we got our paving
Yes, get paving grant, which is very good news.
grant. Yeah. So we got our paving grant.
Yeah. Not expecting that.
No, that was cool.
Sorry if I told you that, Steve, sorry. Sorry.
So that we can't start paving the grant money until after the 1st of July anyway,
Okay.
which is about the same time that Joe from Pike told me that it would be about that, and Hunterford was still up in the air.
Couldn't commit to anything yet.
No. And I have the owner of Wickham's coming to give me an estimate on Wednesday morning.
Okay.
it kind of was, my guy had 51 years and he just retired. So he's supposed to pass the message on, and of course, a week could, almost 10 days go by.
Yeah.
And I had to reach out to the.
Yeah. So Joe's number good, I presume, until end of May too?
Well, Joe he wanted to, so I outlined in pink there that he wanted to iterate that that's a budgetary
Yeah.
quote, not a real quote.
So he said he might be able to do a little better.
So he said, yeah, that's what I talked to him today. He said he's very sure on the tonnage, that he thinks that's a firm number on how much he thinks it. So I think.
At least his proposal's good for.
Right, and he said he thinks that the price will come down from what it is there. So the reason he explained to me, because I don't know, I think multiple people do this, but he seemed to think that nobody else does that. But in terms of providing, going out and measuring roads and saying we're gonna give it, he wants you to use this to create like a request for bids, and then when we request the bids, they'll send the real bid. That's the
Of course, when they did this estimating, we didn't know we were getting grant money anyway.
Right.
So I just had them go up and measure East Sheldon Road. And then I picked out a few roads that are on the bad side, not knowing what you guys are really gonna do down there by the mill. But around there by the mill, could use some fresh pavement for the taxes we pay, I thought. But that's all, they can come back and reevaluate the roads, and the price per ton, it doesn't matter where we're gonna go with it.
Yeah.
Hungerford said the same thing, the price per ton is where we
Whoever
want.
we want it.
Yeah, I was real clear what you guys wanted, so.
So is Hungerford's the same thing? They just went out and did the same thing
The
as.
exact same roads. Yeah.
They're
But his is more concrete, or is his still like Joe's?
I think he just used more concrete.
Okay.
Even though then I heard Richford was a little bit. There's a lot of places.
Each ton of asphalt, depending on the road, goes different lengths.
Well, yeah, just like when we did Main Street, there was one spot you used 6 tons in 300 feet. I mean, I don't know, it's not that much, but, and then the next thing you want, quarter of a mile, and
Yeah.
a half a ton, you know what I mean? And
Exactly.
or a ton, so.
And that's the way it's gonna be on each other road for filling in those schools now.
Yeah.
I guess you figure most guys look at it, but.
Yeah, it's still gonna be just like right
So
now.
much a ton.
Yeah, so much a ton, and get where we can.
And it's not totally accurate either, 'cause last year we were supposed to have a little bit left over from Sweet Hall Road to go up around the corner up on Rice Hill Road. We didn't get that far.
No.
It wasn't anywhere going up there.
Yeah.
They ended up losing more.
Yeah, because we marked it, or it's like we were supposed to make it a little bit hard.
Anyway, I suppose, but I guess the point here is to look at that quote and to consider the budget you guys set for paving this year and see if you
Well, what we've done in here,
That's all.
is
yeah.
we've got $200,000 in the budget. What else a tonnage you can get, just like Seth said, we were supposed to finish up
Oh, I see.
on Rice Hill, and we ran short. We told them we couldn't go over that because that's all we had for money.
Right.
So then they went as far as they could go, and then they
Okay.
stopped. And it, at some points, if you got just a little ways to go or something, you say, well, you make that decision,
I see.
yeah, usually we try to pick out enough roads to.
I mean, they're both-
all, and then some, then just kind of rank it out, how we want to spread it out.
They're not far off each other tonnage wise,
Yeah, it's about 900
Yeah.
800 or 900
yeah, not. Yeah, not that much, yes.
Or,
Yeah, 800, I guess, yeah. So, I mean, it's not terrible. One does say inch and a quarter, one says inch, so, I mean, it's just, but again, those are things that, as long as we know what their tonnage rate is, we can work with it that way.
You're saying one is an inch thick and one's an inch and a quarter thick?
Mm-hmm.
That makes a big difference.
But the tonnage is, that's why the tonnage is a little different.
But that you can go,
No, I
like in concrete, I mean, it's a big difference.
what?
We need to make a decision.
No, I think we'll need to get Wickham's just to see what they, and have Joe come back to a little more concrete, just make sure that Hungerford's is the same way, that's their,
Yeah.
their hard numbers.
Yeah. He's coming up Wednesday morning, so
Yeah,
I'll
and then
jump
just-
right on it.
And then have Pike get a hold of Joe and just make sure Jim's the same way, and then, you know,
Yep.
then we'll have the answer at the next meeting, which will be before the end of May, which that's the way Hungerford's is, and make sure that Joe's in the same boat, and then, and find out from all three of them, try to get an idea, like, if we do this, okay, yeah, we can be end of July, or we're not gonna get till October, because it's nice to drive on the nice.
Yeah,
roads
very,
before.
yeah, very clean. That's why in the past, I've chose Wickham's.
Yeah, 'cause
they
it usually-
came in, I remember one year, we did Woods Hill Road, it was before the end of May. this
Yeah, it
month.
was super early, yeah,
And they
Main Street would
were
be the
like
same way.
$8 a ton cheaper,
yeah.
so it worked out for, Wickham's did us right for a few years, but,
Yeah. Pike did last year,
I
right?
did last year,
So, because they could get here sooner.
yeah.
Wickham said they could be here till like,
Yeah, it was back
End
in
of
September
September,
or
yeah.
something, and they were already booked.
yeah.
Good. I'm gonna read these meeting minutes so we get these approved. Select Board Water Commissioner meeting from April 22nd, 2024. 7:30, meeting began, 7 in attendance were Stephen Dodd, David Blubit, Seth Hungerford, and Nick Norris. Others attending were Matt Stebbins, Town Administrator, Stephanie Magnin from Seam Solutions, Cody Lombardi, Kevin Grassi, and Jerry Basie recording for Northwest Access Television. I called the meeting to order and read the agenda. Seth asked to add to the agenda discussion on the school grounds and an executive session to discuss the highway position. Stephanie Magnin of Seam Solutions discussed Sheldon's first hazard mitigation plan. These plans facilitate FEMA access and response to disaster events like snow and ice storms, flooding, high winds, etc. The first step is establishing a committee to work with Stephanie to analyze Sheldon's risk and assets, including past FEMA requests. The product will be a 5-year plan with goals, for example, establishing and supplying an emergency shelter. I asked who usually participates in the planning. Stephanie said towns utilize different personnel, but typically planning commissions, fire department, town clerk, select people, or town administrator are involved. Nick asked how many should be on the committee. Stephanie said usually there are 4 to 5 people with one designated point person. She usually works remotely, but can travel to Sheldon for 2 or 3 meetings scheduled at the committee's convenience. In response to David, Stephanie said she would like the committee to begin work as soon as possible. Select Board will put together some names for the committee, and Matt will contact them and check in with Stephanie in a week or so. 742, Cody Barbier, veterinary technician who lives in Sheldon, is interested in the vacant animal control officer position. Excuse me. He works in the animal hospital in Barrie, the emergency hospital in Williston, and provides mobile services. I mentioned that the town does not currently have a facility for holding stray animals, but putting up kennels near the town garage has been discussed. This would allow problems to be dealt with by town employees or select people if the animal control officer is not available. Most issues in Sheldon have to do with dogs and cats and their owners. Cody said he understands dealing with pet owners through his work. Nick asked if Cody would be able to transport animals in his vehicle. And he said yes, he would be able to transport dogs and cats. 748, Kevin Grassi is applying for the assessor position. He works for Nemrick full-time, mostly doing appraisal work, handling contracts for several towns. As assessor, he would be working for the town directly. It would do field and CAMA data work for property evaluation only. Not the administrative tasks like property transfers. He may be able to do administrative work in the future, but for now he does not have that much free time. I asked if Kevin would be available to deal with grievances, and he said yes. Seth asked if Kevin had prepared an hourly proposal. Kevin said he had not because he wasn't sure what level of service town required. David asked how much support would be needed to complete all the listing work. Kevin presented a complete listing checklist indicating tasks he would do. Seth said Kim and Matt should be consulted as they now are doing administrative work. Matt said that he and Kim had divided up the remaining duties for this year's grand list. If an assessor is hired, they would begin work on the grand list for next year. 7:55, the board took up bids for grounds maintenance. Matt said one bid for the cemeteries was withdrawn. David asked if the road crew could do mowing given short staff. And Steve relayed from the road foreman that with 2 workers they can, but not all year. David said this could be discussed in executive session. He said the larger properties should be decided on tonight, the others could be held for later. Nick noted that some bids did not include fall cleanup or roof insurance. Seth and Matt added up the total bids for the larger properties. Seth suggested splitting up the bids instead of awarding all to one contractor. Seth moved to accept the bid for Bordeaux Field from White's Property Management for $3,200, seconded by him. Motion passed. Fall cleanup will be discussed with them. Seth moved to accept the bid for the grist mill part for Blueprints Gas for the amount of $2,000 for weekly mowing and weed whacking, seconded by David. Motion passed. Seth moved to accept the bid from the fire station, for the fire station lot from David Supernova for the amount of $1,100, seconded by David. The motion carried. 8:12. I read a proposal for masonry repairs to the town office. No other bids have been received. David asked if another bid could be sought. Seth said the work needs to be done, but there should be more than one proposal. He will provide Matt with contacts to solicit for bids. At 8:20, the board took up the issue of the school property and whether the town remains in ownership interest. Matt reported his contact with Morgan Daybell at FNESU, who suggested hiring a lawyer to investigate the title history. Matt also talked with town attorney Jim Barlow. Jim advised that if the town doesn't want to maintain its interest, a quick claim deed giving the land to the school district would be an efficient solution. I asked what the advantages or disadvantages would be of giving the interest back to school. Seth would like to compare the cost of title search to a quick claim deed. Nick was concerned about maintaining public access to the school if it were quick claim to the district. Steve said the town would have to develop an agreement with the district. Matt will follow up with Jim and Martin. At 8:33, I read the minutes of the April 9th meeting. Motion was made by Nick, seconded by David to accept the minutes as recorded. The motion carried. 8:39, Nick asked if Matt would serve the appointment in Northwest Communications Union District. Matt will serve as primary appointee with Nick going to meetings if Matt is not available. 8:46, board took up Roy Fort's water usage. David made a motion that the select board consider Mr. Fort's balance paid in full by his most recent payment, seconded by Nick. The motion carried. All in favor. 8:47, the board reviewed an estimate for paving Grist Mill Park, Court, and the fire department parking lots. Thus, a second bid should be sought and urge review an existing base around the fire parking lot before extending the pavement. The board discussed the size of the requested pavement extension and existing ground conditions. Thus suggested building up the base around the parking lot and driving on it for a year before paving it. He will contact Matt with people to reach out for bids. At 8:50, David asked about scoping study for Gristmill Park. Matt said he had discussed it recently with the zoning administrator, but could not recall the status. So he said the biggest problem is the lack of parking. Matt will review and report back. 8:56, the board reviewed the sheriff's proposal for police services for 24 to 27. Nick had questions about whether the hours of coverage would be at the sheriff's discretion or specified times during the week. There was consensus that we should ask sheriff or a representative to attend the next board meeting. In response to a question from David, the board reviewed the annual budget and found that $60,000 had been budgeted for police services. Nick moved that an invitation be extended to the sheriff to attend the next select board meeting, seconded by David. Motion carried, is all in favor. 901, Seth reported a bid from Jacob Gilman to purchase the town's 2015 GMC truck as is and without the plow for $20,000. Nick asked if this was the highest offer given, so I said yes. Nick moved to accept Jacob Gilman's bid for $20,000, seconded by Seth. Motion passed with all in favor. Seth will provide contact information to Matt. 904, Seth made a motion, seconded by David, to enter executive session to discuss personnel. Motion passed with all in favor. 10:05, Nick moved to exit executive session, seconded by David. And the motion carried. The board discussed open highway position and other personnel issues. A raise of $1 per hour was approved for the town clerk, water and sewer department head, and the road crew. At 10:05, Seth made a motion, seconded by David, to adjourn the meeting. And next regular meeting is May 13th at 7:30 at town offices. Make a motion to accept these minutes as read.
Make a motion.
Get a second on that.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There's a. Select Board Water Commissioner special meeting on May 6th, 2024 at 7:30 here at the town office. 7:30 the meeting began. Selectmen in attendance were Steve David Joseph, Seth Hungerford, and Rick Piazzi. Others were Matt Stebbins, town administrator. Meeting was called to order by the chair. Motion made by Seth, seconded by Rick, to enter executive session to interview an applicant for the open highway position. Motion carried. 8:17, motion made by Seth to exit executive session, seconded by David. Carried. One applicant was interviewed. 2 applicants were selected for interviews on Wednesday, May 8th. Matt provided an estimate by Justin Mason for work on the 2024 grand list. The tax department district advisor recommends that Sheldon file for an extension to lodge the grand list and hire help to complete it. Motion was made by David to hire Justin Mason as a employee for the hours quoted on his estimate, seconded by Rick. The motion carried. Justin has a interlocal agreement with the towns of Johnson, Hyde Park, St. George, and Berkshire, currently being negotiated for renewal on July 1st. Drafts of the new agreement with 4 to 8 hours added in Sheldon will be reviewed before the end of May. If Sheldon joins, all work done by Justin for Sheldon after July 1st would be under the terms of the interlocal agreement. Seth made a motion, seconded by David, to submit a request for a 30-day extension for the deadline to lodge the grand list. Motion carried. If the state approves, the deadline will be extended from June 4th to July 4th. At 8:44, motion made to adjourn by David, seconded by Rick. The board will meet again on Wednesday, May 8th, to interview applicants for the highway position. I'm gonna take a motion to accept these minutes as
I make a motion.
Good second on that.
I wasn't here, so here's the second time.
All clear.
Aye.
Vote. And then last but not least, we have the select board of water commissioner special meeting held on May 8th of 2024. 6:30 here at town office. Meeting began, select board members in attendance were Stephen Dodd, Nick Norris, Seth Hungerford, and Rick Gavin. Also attending was Matt Stebbins. 6:31, I call the meeting to order. Motion was made by Seth to enter executive session to interview applicants for the highway position. Seconded by Rick, motion carried. At 8:19, a motion was made by Nick, seconded by Seth, to exit executive session, adjourn the meeting. 3 candidates were interviewed for 2 positions from the highway department. An offer was made to 1 candidate. The board accepted the resignation of select board vice chair David Pluba. Nick nominated Seth Hungerford to serve as vice chair, seconded by Steve. This nomination was approved with all in favor. Next meeting is Monday, May 13th. Yeah. We need to take a motion to accept these minutes as read.
Make a motion.
Second on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alright, so that's you're all signed, please minutes are signed. Can we sign that, we adopt that emergency plan and then get the changes needed on the things, or do we need to make the changes before we?
Yeah, maybe we should, I don't know.
There are some
Good
names
que-
there.
Yeah, it's but it's not, we're not changing the plan, it's just we're
Right.
changing
Change,
personnel, that's
we
why.
just contacts.
Yeah, it's mostly contact.
So can you approve it and just make the adjustment to change the contacts
Yeah,
with the adjustments of the
Okay.
contacts?
so take a motion to approve this plan with the need to change some of the contacts in the plan.
Make a motion for that.
Alright, we'll get a second on that.
Second.
Alright. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, we'll, approve that. If you wanna sign it, we'll sign it, and I'll do the other. Alright, we're just about, get on to executive session, or is there something else we need to do?
I can run through what I've been doing if you wanna hear that now.
Sure.
Or, yeah, I can try to make it real fast, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so, as I mentioned before, we received we received notice that we are in line to receive the P.E.G grant. That's of course pending legislature and the final approval by V-Trans, but, that seems to be, well in hand. The water line in the springs, there's still water bubbling out of the ground down there. Hubert had, there doesn't seem to be any change in the residential usage in terms of, if we were seeing a leak, we would see a much higher meter reading altogether. Hubert wondered if it was there's a fire hydrant there that runs on the Mills emergency river water. He
Yeah,
wondered if that might be it, so they had
they-
turned that hydrant off and vented it, but he didn't seem to see any change in the
so they.
water coming out of the
They
ground.
noticed their pumps starting to stop.
Well, he told me that the mill has had, it seems like they've had the pump running more often now. This has been complicated. He was gonna do the hydrant test again, and when they did that, the cover broke on the water, and of course, it fell down, so they couldn't get a wrench on the thing, so he got a magnet he had to buy a magnet, order a magnet and get it. So we've got that now, and I think the plan is to go out tomorrow and try to liberate that situation, and then we can get some more answers. But
Okay.
for now, the water is still coming out of the ground and it's just going down the ditch. But since it doesn't seem to be the residential water, it seems likely that it is on the hydrant, but unless there's some other water system there that has been tapped into somehow, or a new spring or something, I don't know. But anyway, the problem with it, if it is the hydrant line, that of course is under the road. We'd have to dig down again and get underneath it, where we had dug before, I think. So, but obviously we're not gonna do any digging until we try to have a better idea of what exactly is causing the problem. But
Maybe a suggestion, possibly, if it is river water, could you test chlorine, because if it was town water.
right, yes, yeah, someone else mentioned that to me. Yeah, did we?
Didn't work.
Yeah, didn't work out.
Right.
Probably contaminated enough at that point that you can't.
Right. So, we'll report back when we find something else more about that. You got, at the last meeting, David asked about the grist mill scoping project. They did have a meeting about that, and basically it had been sent to a firm to do it, and when they came back with their proposal, it was like twice what was budgeted, and they had, seems like there was a misunderstanding about what exactly we want, the community was interested in having it in there. So that's been sent back to them to redraw what's going on. I don't recall, I don't know that parking is really a part of that grant study. I can check with them about it, but it didn't seem like it. Anyway, on the Grants and Aid Highway, Mike Johnson went out with Seth last Friday, and they did a survey of places that they could spend the money from that grant program. So Mike's drawing up the kind of proposal for that. Mostly having to do culverts up on the Cattell Road could be changed, and had one on the Crow Hill maybe. Anyway, up there, it should essentially spread the money out so that all the culverts on that road would be dealt with, I think. Brought up to standard. I have called about, we had discussed in the conversation about our assessor possibly moving toward the Nemrick cloud here. So I've made contact with Comcast. That would be the foundation of doing that. So they're coming to do a site survey here to see what it would take to get service here at the building. So that I assume that'll take a little while for them to do. And then I will be able to get more concrete. I did get a price for them about what it would cost for the service, but that's not really the full, because if they have to engineer a line, it would cost more money. So I wanted to get all the information to send it to you. So I'm working on that.
Okay.
I'm also working on getting the grist mill and fire department paving. I have sent out for another quote for that, so I'm waiting to hear back on that. I actually went down and kind of remeasured it to get the square footage was correct, but I just wanted to make sure because the diagrams were not quite what's there. Anyway, I got Richie Riley from Riley's to come and do a survey of the town office for masonry. He was here last week, and I assume he'll get a quote to us very soon. So by the next meeting, you should be able to review those.
Yeah.
We had a little conversation here between, I went over and visited with Seth last week, went through kind of the equipment at the town garage, and we talked about this need for a new salt shed over there. And that kind of prompted, I also talked with Hubert about it because I wanted to know what he thought about it. He thought we might look into whether the sand pile over there might be an issue, because some towns have moved to putting sand in sheds too. So anyway, I decided to call League of Cities and Towns and kind of investigate that. And they said, yeah, there are more people putting them in sheds, but there's still tons of towns that have big the open piles, and it's not like the state's moving in any regulatory direction to make people do that. But just on the insurance side, we want to make sure that, I think it's mostly about limiting people going into the sand pile, especially when it's like half frozen. So they recommend that we kind of keep a small, if we're gonna have townspeople access sand, we keep it in a small pile where they can access it without getting buried. And that we, have proper signage to keep people out of the big
Insurance is never mentioned, fencing or,
Well, I think they said they wanted you to do it, they understand that fencing is a big expense for that, so if you can do it with signage, I think that's fine.
yeah.
Anyway, I just investigated that in case it led to something. So I think we've kicked around different ideas about a salt shed. I think there used to be more grant funding for that in the last 5 years, but I think there used to be specific programs for that, but I will look at what's available. I think Fairfield explored looking at grant funds and decided that it was cheaper to just do it themselves when they did theirs. So anyway, just something else I'm working on. The town clerk had a question about the ARPA funds, because you have, the select board, I believe, has agreed to two uses of those funds already, one being the Historical Society and the other being for the fire department for a truck payment, if I remember correctly. And so she would kind of like to know how she's supposed to go about paying those out. And also, she just wanted to remind you, it's in the budget numbers that you have, how much is still available in that fund. And
Okay.
I know
We'll get it all out.
right, yeah, just to keep an eye on that, and
Yeah.
also whether, if you wanted to make a big expenditure on it, say this sewer project, if we wanted to use those funds for that. I guess she was wondering if maybe that project of that size might require a vote or be an idea that, I don't know if it would require it, but might be a good idea. Anyway, just something for you guys to think about.
Okay.
Anyway, so she would like some guidance on how and when she's going to make those payments out of that fund.
Okay.
I think that's all. I'm just going to let you know about a couple of things that are coming up. Tomorrow there's an annual meeting for the communications district. I'll be going to that, and it should be just organizational. So there is a select board training that is going on in person in Milton tomorrow, but it is also available as a webinar. I don't know if any of you would be interested in that, but it's through Vermont League of Cities and Towns. It would be like 5:30 in the evening. So you could have I'm not sure if there's in-person availability still or not, but I can send an email with the information about it if you want. If you're interested, I'm sorry I didn't send it out earlier, but I signed up for it so that I can report if there's any, it'll be kind of comprehensive of the select board position, so I hope I could report anything that I learned that you might want to know from
Tell us what we're going around.
Right, that's right. And the planning commission will be meeting on Wednesday. I think that they're mostly just going to do their final approval of the town plan that they have planned. The idea will be for next month, that will go to a public hearing, and then in July, the select board would sign off on the final version of it. And the last thing, Justin Mason was here on Friday and got started. I got him some keys and we got him into the computer, and he started in work. I think he started with the business personal property, so seemed to be making good progress on that. So.
He thinks he's gonna meet that 30-day extension.
Yeah, I think so. He's got it planned out. I have to check back. I sent that into the state, but I have to check back and make sure they got it. I think he's pretty confident that once he got into the system, he's like, oh, this isn't too bad, in terms of the size of town it is and how many things there are left to do. So I did get some guidance from Ted Nelson to find out any properties that we might have missed. And I have identified one house that we need to go reassess because it was partially completed last year and we need to go now that it's finished. But I think Ted Ted showed me how to do some reports to figure out if that was the only one, and I think it is the only one, so. Feeling good about that. And that is all, again, the budget numbers are
Yeah.
there for you guys to review. And I think that's all.
Alright, thank you, Matt. Probably all set, we'll go into executive now.
Yep.
Is there anything else we need to do about this?
So I'll make a motion to enter executive session and exit upon final discussions.
Okay. Second one.
I'll second.